word religion literally means to bind the mind. And in this essay, I'm going to look at one of the most pernicious of all the religions, namely that known as money. The persistent belief in money marks it as the one religion that holds the world in its sway. Many a religion uses private enforcers to manage and protect its interests, and the high priests of banking are no exception. I've previously written in some detail about the British police and how they are acting fraudulently when they turn up to assist a bailiff/debt collector. Why fraudulently, you may well ask. The answer is simple. They are acting in the office of police constable, which means each copper has to acknowledge his oath of office. Quote, "I do solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will well and truly serve the King in the office of constable, with fairness, integrity, diligence and impartiality, upholding fundamental human rights and according equal respect to all people, and that I will, to the best of my power, cause the peace to be kept and preserved, and prevent all offences against people and property, and that while I continue to hold the said office, I will, to the best of my skill and knowledge, discharge all the duties thereof faithfully according to law." Whilst the police constables may have been initially created as a common-sense practical remedy for dealing with crime, since 1931, when the Great British Pound was taken off the gold standard, their subsequent reorganisation and uniform change, namely the imposition of the Freemasonic insignia, the black and white checkerboard stripes which adorn the uniform, it is reasonable to assert that they have morphed into something more sinister and akin to being a police force that is instructed and controlled by the Bank of England and its licensed credit brokers. In other words, each and every police force across the Isles of Britain is effectively an army acting as an enforcement agency of the financiers and participating in fraud by way of its direct association with its dark overlords. In effect, the UK government plc, brackets 99% of the world's governments are incorporated entities and are falsely acting as elected representatives of the people, is bankrupt and consequently has been in receivership at least since 1931. This is why we have a fiat currency, not a real system of money, and how IOUs are simply passed around as the de facto cash system, albeit worthless in any actual sense, as they are no longer backed by anything more than a false promise to pay. The slide shows a dollar bill and a monopoly note and asks the question, what's the difference? The only difference between these two notes is your belief that one has more value than the other. Belief or faith underpins every religion, and money is no exception. Due to the fake debt owed to the Central Bank of England as controlled by the House of Rothschilds, the UK plc is bankrupt. Under receivership, it is permitted to run its agencies of government with the entire populace offered up, along with all the fixtures and fittings, including the registered people, as security on the false loans. This, in effect, has served to establish an all-encompassing financier's lien over all the property and people who are under the aegis of the UK plc, of which the UK Parliament is but a shop front, a pantomime of buffoonery that serves to distract the peoples from who their real government is. In short, the Bank of England, each and every one of its licensed credit brokers, the UK Parliament, the local councils and the police forces are joint and severally acting fraudulently, as they are not what they claim to be. That is the de facto state of not just the UK, but also each and every state that has a central bank. The numerous and various loans that have been made to the UK government for at least the last 200 years do not, in reality actually exist. Some of them have taken 100 years to pay off due to the compound interest that is charged by the money changers. There is no national debt, and each and every fake loan could easily be discharged by any Prime Minister who had the cognizance of how the financial system is one huge swindle. When a licensed broker deposits a mortgage deed and streams a line of credit with which to purchase the house from the seller, the deal is done. The balance owed has been satisfied in full. From that point on, all that exists is the various aspects of the swindle that is predicated on the monetary mechanics and, of course, on the ignorance of the poor dupe who has fallen victim to a bait and switch, which leaves him as debtor to a false loan, when the incontrovertible truth is that he was, via his autograph on the promise to pay, the creditor who funded the entire purchase. There is only then the illusion of a debt. There is no valid agreement or contract in place, no valid mortgage deed, and no evidence of a loan. Equally significantly, there is no lawful money with which to pay the alleged loan. In such a state of bankruptcy and without a lawful currency, in reality, all he can do is settle and discharge the balance claimed by way of an administrative process in which he tenders a promissory note payable on demand to the fake lender, the non-acceptance of which discharges the alleged debt in accord with the Bills of Exchange Act 1882. Quote, at 43, Dishonour by non-acceptance and its consequences. It states, 1. A bill is dishonoured by non-acceptance, a. when it is duly presented for acceptance and such an acceptance as is prescribed by this Act is refused or cannot be obtained, or b. when presentment for acceptance is excused and the bill is not accepted. 2. Subject to the provisions of this Act, when a bill is dishonoured by non-acceptance, an immediate right of recourse against the drawer and endorsers accrues to the holder, and no presentment for payment is necessary. End quote. All he has is his signature, the autograph which, in this false system of financial servitude, is, in the final analysis, the only way of honourably discharging and settling the balance. After all, when he tenders credits and/or banknotes, he is but using IOUs, which, as the Bank of England has confirmed on numerous occasions, are only backed by the faith people place in them. Note that word faith. When I state that money is a religion, it is a well-founded assertion. Noun. 1. Complete trust or confidence in someone or something. This restores one's faith in politicians. 2. Strong belief in God or in the doctrines of a religion based on spiritual apprehension rather than proof. Bereaved people who have shown supreme faith. A system of religious belief, the Christian faith. A strongly held belief or theory, the faith that life will expand until it fills the universe. Such faith is in effect wholly of a religious quality. Therefore, it is reasonable to assert that the unlawful money brackets IOUs and debt requires the congregation who use it to exercise belief in it when in fact it does not really exist in any meaningful sense. It's no different from the usage of the notes in a game of Monopoly, or the faith one might have in Allah, Yahweh, God, Krishna, the Buddha, National Socialism, Communism, Capitalism, Jarbel on, or the King. As such, this faith is blind to the realities of the matter, and thus the money system may quite correctly be regarded as another religion, which binds the mind, usually into believing something that may not actually exist. Latin, religio, obligation, bond, reverence, perhaps based on Latin religare, to bind. Whichever way you look at it, you have to acknowledge that it is quite a trick. As we have been asserting for the last 10 plus years, the Great British Mortgage Swindle though it is actually a worldwide racket, stands as the one fraud that has the potential, when understood, to bring down the entire ship parade. In regard to the worldwide racket, I would assert that the one world government is in full cause and effect, which is easily demonstrated by the fact that any and all police are, as I state, a de facto private army of the central banks and their associated credit brokers, who have been placed as such in order to protect the central bank's assets in the form of mortgage securities. The fact that all of this has been procured via a conglomeration of fraudulently obtained promissory notes, void deeds of mortgage, and by way of falsely representing credit extensions as loans, renders it all null and void. After all, fraud vitiates everything. The entire mountain of debt is fraudulent at every level, and yet no one appears to see it for what it is, a religion. As Henry Ford stated, quote, "It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning." To conclude, money is a religion, a bind that suckers in the entire world. Nobody knows from whence it comes, how it is created, or indeed who controls it. It is, essentially, a manifest illusion. Nevertheless, the religionists continue to worship it and bow down at every opportunity to satisfy the gross material lusts it engenders. As ever, thank you for reading and listening. Should you value these essays and my discourses on Rogue Mail, then please consider tipping me a few quid via the Buy Me a Coffee button, and or take out a subscription to my Substack pages. Until the next time, my friends, thank you, and I'll catch you on the flip side.